Hi everyone, this is Jerry King, and I'm back with another presentation on Chinese metaphysics. And today I'm going to be talking about Fu Yin. This is a very common topic that we see in our practices, whether it's in flying stars, your four pillars, Qimen, etc., etc. And this Fu Yin always I find with some of my students, they see this and they start freaking out and they go, oh, okay, this means it's going to be something bad. Something bad's going to come up and start generating negative thoughts just because something is in a Fu Yin setting, which I find is incorrect because it depends on how you see it and what types of situations are you looking at. If you're doing a divination, for example, maybe you want something that transpires or occurs very slowly, and Fu Yin might be a positive outcome rather than a negative outcome. Some people prefer things that move slowly because Fu Yin obviously refers to things that are moving at a slow pace or lack of movement, perhaps. So, yeah, it's commonly seen in all kinds of methods in Chinese metaphysics, as I mentioned, whether it's your four pillars, Qimen, Da Liu Ren, your flying stars, etc., etc. Okay. Um, so the thing I find with Fu Yin is that aside from it generating negative thoughts, is that sometimes it causes a lot of confusions as to what does it actually mean. Is it supposed to be a life-changing event, which is also possible? And on the flip side, there's another the opposite of Fu Yin is Fan Yin, which I will talk about in a future recording. So with Fu Yin, yeah, the obvious feature of it is things that are moving slowly, stagnant, as I mentioned. And it's very common to see a Fu Yin pattern in four pillars, which has a different meaning to it. Okay. In four pillars, we can see it within the day and the month pillar. So, for example, your day pillar could be, let's say, yin water rabbit, and then suddenly you have a yin water rabbit in the month. And what does all that mean? And in the day, and then now you see it in the year pillar as well, being the same pillars, etc., etc. So, what does all this mean? I'm going to quickly go through here. So here's one scenario where we have the day pillar of yang metal and dragon, and then we have a yang metal dragon in the month as well. So these are common situations that we see when we look at people's chart and then we go, oh, something's up. But how do you interpret this, right? It really depends. So, for example, when you have the two yang metals on top, it's very um, obvious that yeah, you have a competition, right? Or we call a friend element because it's the same. So the yang metal, the two yang metals on top. So it's possible that they're in competition for something, or it could be a friend as well, right? And then on the bottom, you have the two dragons, and their dragon often referred to as having a lot of earth energy in it. And right here, there's a lot of earth energy that is feeding into the yang metal. And it's also possible to say that, oh, these two yang metals are competing with each other for the resources because the earth represents the resource element of the yang metal. So are they exactly competing? Um, yes and no. It really depends, right? It's also possible that there's something that combines one of the yang metal away. So what if there's a yin wood in the year that can confuse things if we put a yin wood here, right? So if I put like a yi here, now that would confuse things because now you have this yi and the gung together combined. And then now this frees up the yang metal to take the resources. That's a little bit more in-depth information that I could go through in the future. But for now, what we see here is when we have a combination here, it is very common that, okay, this yang metal is occupied, and now this person has more opportunities to obtain more resources. Okay, but in this case, going back to the Fu Yin point, is so we have the two pillars right here. It is very common, whether it's male or female, where this person could get married in his 20s and then have a divorce and then remarry again in later in life, whether it's in his or her late 30s or 40s. Right? This is a very common pattern that we see where people might remarry. The possibility is high. But having said this, it depends on when you get married. So if you get married later in life, the chances of having a remarriage is much lower because the month pillar represents more of a period where you were younger. Okay, so this is one explanation that you can give or you can provide for someone when you look at their chart and you see the duplication of the day pillar and the month pillar. Obviously, we have to look at their useful god, what is their flow, which elements are good for them, and so on and so forth, to gather more information about the individual. Okay, let's look at a different scenario here. So now I have the day and the hour pillars being the same. And here we have the yang metal dragon again, and the yang metal dragon in the hour. So similar to the previous one, but we find the duplication in the hour pillar itself. So this could also mean remarriage, but it's possible that this person gets married in his 30s and then suddenly later in life, in maybe his late 40s or 50s, he or she may remarry again. So again, talking from a relationship standpoint right now, we see remarriage that is possible. Okay. Next scenario here. So we have here the year pillar duplicated with the day pillar. So this can, from a relationship standpoint again, this person could get married early in his life, his or her life in his or her 20s, and then remarry, get a divorce, and then remarry in his or her 30s. Okay, but obviously, these are just generalizations, just because we don't know what the month pillar is or the hour pillar is, but the possibilities are there for remarriage. Okay, but if we have more information from the month and the hour, obviously we can deduce more from this from the chart itself. So scenario 4. We have 3 pillars exactly the same. Now, I've seen this one before, okay? And I had a client, or should I say a student? I believe it's a student or client. It doesn't matter. I've seen this presented to me where there's yin water goat, a year yin water, goat month, and in a day. And I'm like, wow, this is just amazing. Like having 3 pillars of the same, and it's rare that you see, like it's not common that you walk down the street and you talk to a random person and the person would have 3 exact same pillars, right? So from a marriage standpoint, you could be remarrying 3 times, 4 times, multiple times. But aside from that, we could look at the flow and the useful god itself. So you can see the 3 goats. The key thing here is that the goat has a lot of earth, born in the summer. And basically, the chances of this person obtaining or making a lot of money is extremely high, because you can think about it this way. The yin fire is hidden inside the goat here, here, and here. So the money is hidden, right? So it's obviously that this person can be very stingy with his or her money. All right. And it makes it even more stingier when you have two more yin waters on top. So they're considered this person's rival. So obviously this person, this day master, is very aware of his or her rivals, um, aware of the possibility of being robbed, even though it's not this person's rob wealth. The rob wealth would be the yang water element, right? But in this case, the additional water on top would make this person more alert in terms of how he or she deals with her money. Okay. So, obviously, as I mentioned, from a remarriage standpoint, yeah, obviously, this is a high possibility of remarrying multiple times. So, from a female standpoint, so if I have, let's say, a Wu Earth, Wu cycle, right? Cycle. What happens, right? I should have added that earlier in my presentation. Anyway, so um, basically you have the Gui, the yin water, so 1, 2, 3, and it's seeking to combine with the yang earth. So that can lead to a battle in relationships. By battling, it would mean possibilities of, excuse me, uh, a divorce or some sort of an affair or going into a lawsuit dealing with relationships, or it could be um, someone, a partner cheating on this person, whether it's his or him or her. But obviously, like the yang earth itself represents the controlling element of the water, which for a female would represent more of a relationship issue that can occur, even though the earth element is favorable. And even though this yang earth could transform one of the gui water into additional fire, it is still a conflict, right? Because you got three gui trying to combine with the yang earth. Having said that, it can lead to a windfall in money because this Wu Earth, the Yang Earth, can combine and can transform into fire just because this person's born in a summer month. Okay. So I'm just throwing it out there. Like there's so many different scenarios that can play out here. Um, whether it is the person having an affair or her husband having an affair, which is very highly possible as well, just because the earth represents is her indirect officer, or what we call seven killings, the qisha. So the temptation is there. Here's one, and then here's another one. So the earth is tempted by the other woman here. And yeah, this is one of the scenarios. So for a male, obviously, it has more to do with possibilities of lawsuits, or winning a lawsuit is very possible too, because the Yang Earth could be a favorable element. I would say it is a favorable element towards this type of a chart. Or, however, they're fighting over the control element, in this case, the three yin water. Okay. Next one here. So here's another scenario where the day pillar, right here we have here, and then the luck pillar. I just randomly threw in this luck pillar, just to make it up so that in his 30s or in her 30s, you see this duplicated. So when you see this duplicated with that, it's very highly possible that, again, from a relationship standpoint, this person can get married during this luck cycle, or within a specific year. Within that year, the person could get married as well. But again, it really depends on the rest of the chart too, to see whether this is favorable or not, right? What if this person dislikes metal or dislikes earth, right? Then it's possible that the marriage circumstances are not that favorable. Okay, so we have to determine the favorable elements. So for four pillars, it has less to do with stagnation or lack of movement or being like held back against your will or stuff like that, right? Whereas in a divination, the fu yin has a different meaning to it, right? Right here, when you have the yang metal dragon and the yang metal dragon here, it doesn't mean that that person is stuck in a standstill um, period for 10 years. Doesn't mean that you're frozen to death or whatever, right? If life goes on, there's stuff happening. You're also affected by the year pillars as well. Okay. I think this was the same as the previous. I don't know why this was here. Oh, deleted a wrong slide here. Okay, next one here. Fu Yin. So Fu Yin in Qimen and Daliren, they share similar characteristics, which can mean lack of change, slow movement, or uncertainty. Just reading word for word here. So, for example, when asking a question such as, when would I be getting the results of the exam? The results may take longer than expected. It does not mean that the results are going to be good or bad. So, as I mentioned earlier, Fu Yin does not mean bad things will happen. It only means that there could be a possible delay. I remember the student sent me a chart of him flying, and he was afraid that the flight would get canceled because the chart shows Fu Yin in the Qimen chart. And I told him it's not a cancellation. It looks like more of just a delay. So 3 to 4 hours later, finally his plane takes off. So everything was good. So at the end of the day, he arrived home safely. Nothing really bad happened. It was just a delay, just a regular delay. So Fu Yin, as I mentioned, does not mean an inauspicious or auspicious outcome. It can be frustrating for the person wanting a result. So someone wanting a result or waiting for a result, it's just frustrating. Like, when am I going to get my answers? When am I going to get my results for my exam? When will I know whether my bid on a property will complete? Things like that. Or when will there be a payout, etc., etc. So Fu Yin can be easily seen on the chart for Daliu Ren and Qimen. So for example, I have here on a Qimen chart, so the day of the divination was on the Yi day, right? So the Yi wood, so the focus on this individual was here. And the person was asking about money and investments, whether it was worth investing, and how much money and so on and so forth. Well, I'm not too worried about, like, I don't want to focus too much on how much money this person's going to make. First thing first is we can see there's a Fu Yin chart. You can see the Fu Yin patterns very clear in Qimen, right? Because when you have these the stems duplicated, that's already a key feature there where you see okay, all this is in Fu Yin. Well, for those who know Qimen more, obviously your Tianxin is in its base palace, so it's here in the Kaimen. So basically, all the Tian and the gates are in its own palace, so it did not change at all. They're in their base element palace. So what happens is that obviously you see, oh, okay, we have a clear Fu Yin chart. So when we're talking about money, we're talking about the Shangmen and Wu Earth here. The Earth being the assets itself, like or their capital. And person was thinking about how whether the investment would be worthwhile. There isn't really a palace conflict here because this is the Li Gua and then this is the Gang Gua. So you got fire and earth here. Obviously, the person wanting to chase the investment here. But we can see right here, the Yi Ma is here, the Jiu Di is there. So slow movement is obvious because on top of the Fu Yin, you have Jiu Di, which represents slow movement as well. And the flying horse, meaning it could be a possibility of the money flying away as well. Money doesn't literally fly away, but it could represent harder to obtain this money or harder to make this money, just because everything is in a slow movement and you're trying to chase it, right? The Li Gua is trying to, it's feeding into the gun. So right here, I would warn against investing unless you have a longer time frame. This requires patience. Okay, there's no conflict. It looks like a positive setup, but it requires patience. And if you don't have the patience to invest, move on to something else. Okay. So I would highly recommend, like in this sort of situation, you have to preach patience. If they're not patient, then the investment is not right for this person. Okay. In Daliu Ren, it is also very clear how a Fu Yin chart looks. So this Earth Palace right here, we have the pig, the rat, the ox, so and so on and so forth. All these are in its, so this is the heavenly plate, but on the earth plate, it's the same location. All these are in the same location. So basically there's no movement. And then right here, you see there's a clash here and there's a punishment. So this is what we call the 3 transmissions up here. And these are the 4 classes we have here. So it's very common that in Daliu Ren, even if you don't recognize, even if, let's say, sometimes when you're reading, sometimes when I'm reading a Daliu Ren chart and I'm dozing off, I don't see this for some reason. I don't know why. Like my mind just goes blurred and I forgot that, oh, this is a Fu Yin. The pig is right there because my mind's focused on perhaps looking at the 4 classes up here. And I go, oh, okay, oh, there's a clash here and there's a punishment. Okay, something's not right with this person. Something's definitely not a particularly auspicious setup here. And then you just lose focus of the whole Earth plate. But making a long story short, in Daliu Ren, it's very clear. There's usually punishments and clashes. The punishments and the clashes that you're accustomed to seeing in 4 Pillars of Destiny, they're here. So, for example, you can see the tiger and the monkey here, and then there's the punishment right there. And basically, the Earth plate is exactly the same as the Heaven plate. Going to the next one, another example here. Same thing, just like the last one, the pig, always in its place. All these are in their place. And you just have to remember in Daliu Ren, the pig is always in the bottom right-hand corner. Okay, and then right here we could see punishment, and then you got a clash here, the dragon and the dog, and yet again in the Fu Yin in Daliu Ren, usually the situation's not favorable. I wouldn't say similar to Qimen, I wouldn't say that it is always negative. It could be something that is delayed. Like from a relationship standpoint, obviously it depends on what you're looking at. So if I go back to this one, for example, this is the day stem, this is the branch, right? Day stem and the branch. If you've learned Daliu Ren, you know that from a relationship standpoint, when you look at the 4 classes here, the tiger and the monkey, they're clashing. So obviously something's not right with a relationship, right? It's an unstable relationship. So if they're asking about whether they are going to have a divorce, the possibility is quite high, but it can also be a prolonged process because of the Fu Yin that we see here. So basically the whole thing is in Fu Yin mode. And also it depends on where the gods are, and we can give a much more clear reading. But yeah, to make a long story short, usually in Daliu Ren and in Qimen, I find that most Fu Yin charts are more related to, like, at least the readings that I give related more to things that develop slowly, whether it's a project, construction project, or whether it is as simple as getting your exam results. The Fu Yin can be frustrating, but it doesn't mean that it is something bad. It could be something that can happen in later, right? So a bit different from four pillars, where four pillars we evaluated the relationship part, part where the day the day pillar is duplicated with other pillars, whether it's the luck cycle or the year, month, etc., etc. So that's all I have for today regarding Fu Yin. Hopefully, this will give you more of an understanding of what Fu Yin means, and try to avoid negative thoughts when you see Fu Yin. And the same with Fan Yin, which I will try to find time and talk about. Fan Yin is also very easy to spot in Qimen and in Daliu Ren, and also in Four Pillars. So perhaps I can follow up with this with another segment of Fan Yin with some examples. And yeah, and that's all I have basically for today. So if you like this video, you can hit the like button and feel free to subscribe to this video. To my YouTube channel. Okay, and have a nice day, everybody.